Welcome to the Tea of Life podcast, where our mission is to transform every attitude of life by encouraging and equipping you to live the life you love and love the life you live. I am your host, Tiffany Thompson. Hello, friends. Thanks for tuning in today. I really hope that you're finding value in this homeschooling series, and I really hope that it is able to transform every attitude that you may have about homeschooling or your homeschooling journey. If you allow it, then these episodes can also transform every attitude that you may have in other areas of your life as well. The last episode was about relaxing and taking a break, and we all need a break, don't we? No matter where you find yourself today, there is something that you need a break from. I can tell you that that is true for me as well. And the last few weeks for me have felt a little bit out of control. My husband has been traveling a lot, and he's been home for almost a week now, but he was traveling a lot there for a bit, and there's been a lot of stuff happening here at home that fell on me to take care of. The end of the school year always seems to be crazy and chaotic for many as well, and sometimes homeschooling is not an exception for this. If we're involved in homeschooling groups, co-ops, or even just extracurricular activities, there can still be events that seem to take up most of our time. We just need to make sure that we are doing the things that we have to do or the things that we choose to do, and not the things that others are roping us into, but we have no desire to do, or it has nothing to do with us or our kid. But quickly, I'd like to pause and remind you, if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform that you're listening to right now, and also on my website, teaoflifepodcast.com. If you go to my website and click on this podcast episode at the top of the page, then on the right-hand side, you will see Never Miss an Episode or Life article. Just enter your email there, and you will start getting a notification every time I post something to my website. I'm continuing the series that I started out as How to Homeschool High School. This particular episode, or the last, isn't just for high school or even just for homeschooling. To be honest, most of the series could be for anyone in general. I think that all of us could use some encouragement to take a break. Today, I'm talking about finding someone who is already doing what you want to do and ask them a lot of questions. This really applies to life in general, and this is something that all of us can benefit from. Find someone and ask them a lot of questions about how they do what they do. Asking others who are already successful at doing what you want to do helps you gain knowledge, and they can pass on some of the wisdom that you may not have ever thought about, or some of the experiences that you have not ever, experienced. If you're about to embark on the journey of homeschooling, find someone who is already homeschooling. If you're about to embark on a homeschooling journey in high school, find someone who is already homeschooling in high school. Even if their homeschooling looks different than what you desire yours to look like, it doesn't matter. You can't figure out what you need to do until you figure out what maybe you also don't need to do or don't want to do. It'll allow you to narrow everything down. It may also be helpful to ask those questions to those who are not homeschooling the way that you would like to homeschool. You may not know exactly what they are doing or how they're doing it, but you can tell by the fruits of their labor, and here I'm talking about their kids, that their homeschooling journey may not be exactly what you would like your homeschooling journey to be like. And that's totally okay. But it may be helpful to take one or two of those parents to lunch as well, just to find out what they are doing so that you can also find out what you don't want to do, maybe. Don't discount the power of knowledge that comes from seeing both sides of the spectrum. Scheduling time with others also forms community. You need community. It can also form a sort of accountability. You need to find others who have gone before you and who can lead or pull you along. You need to have others there who can help you when you lose vision of your why. And you will lose vision of your why. And it's good to have others there to help steer you as well. Can you see why this will actually apply to other areas of your life other than just homeschooling? There will be times when you will lose your way. Notice that I didn't say that you may lose your way? I said you will lose your way. You won't always know what you're doing, and you won't always know how to reach your goal. And this is completely normal. And this is why I talk about your why. We will get more into defining your why in later episodes, but for now, I will say that your why is what's going to get you through your entire journey. If you are in a community of other homeschoolers, you will be able to identify and stick with your why a bit easier. If you can find and cling to a few people who you feel have the most in common with your homeschooling goals and dreams, then that's good. You can also lean on each other and help each other out. There were times when my kiddos were younger, and with my closest homeschooling mom friends, we taught our kids together. There were even times when we broke off into groups and we taught what we were comfortable teaching, and it was fun, and it helped us get through some of those more treacherous days. So I've kind of gotten a little bit off subject here, but this kind of fits into the community part. It's important to have a community, and not only any community, but a healthy community. There are a lot of crazies out there, so make sure that you don't settle on the first community that you find if you're looking for one on social media or even in your local neighborhood. I have told parts of my homeschooling story before, but when I was at a certain point in my journey, I was in a community of other homeschooling families, and I didn't realize that they weren't really my people. Ended up being kind of a toxic situation for me, and I tried my best to fit in, and all it ended up doing was breaking me down and causing me to pull away from most all of my homeschooling friends and community. And I had 2 other homeschooling moms that I hung out with after that, but my experience with a bad homeschooling community basically caused me to abandon all other homeschooling communities altogether. And during this time, if I met someone and found out that they were homeschooling, I would have more than likely walked the other direction. I was so dismayed by my experience that I completely separated myself from all homeschooling communities altogether. So this falls into the ask questions category. This wasn't really good, but it did give me time to reset and figure out for myself what was the best and right thing to do for our family regarding homeschooling. After my breakdown or reset or whatever you want to call it was all over, I began to reach out to other homeschooling moms and communities in my area, and I began to talk to moms again, and I began to take them to lunch again, and I started picking their brains again, and I started to seek out other co-ops, and I eased my way back into them. I'm still a little hesitant, and I do feel like I have an invisible fence around me sometimes, but my experience with that other community was so bad that I never wanted to experience that again, and it's just boundaries. So I guess that I'm saying all of this to say that when you seek out other people who are doing what you want to do and ask them questions, please make sure that you go into that conversation knowing that you are only there to ask questions and advice, and you don't have to take their advice. Take the advice that you feel applies to you and throw the rest away and move on. And don't feel bad about it. Do not beat yourself up about it. There are some really opinionated homeschooling moms out there, I'm telling you. And you really need to go in this with knowing that and being prepared for that. Just make sure that you know who you're taking advice from. Because when I first started homeschooling, a mom who was much older than me, and she was not a homeschooling mom, she told me that I was actually going to ruin my children and that I was making a big mistake. And obviously, she did not know what she was talking about, and she was definitely not someone who I went to for advice, but she still felt the freedom to tell me what she thought about homeschooling. She told me all the negative fears that we've all heard and said that my children were not going to be successful citizens, and she never convinced me that what she was saying was true, and I did not let her or anyone else hinder my decision. I just kept going on and never looked back, and I never allowed them to add stress to my decision either. I knew that I was making the right decision, and I knew that they were among the number of people who I did not want to listen to. They were obviously not doing what I wanted to do, so they were not among those people who I would have asked questions to because I saw them doing something that I wanted to do. So I did not feel the need to have them speak into my homeschooling journey. Now it's easier than ever to seek out homeschooling families in your area or community, and there are plenty of Facebook groups out there and local communities that are centered on your particular state. There are also national Facebook groups, and one Facebook group that I am currently in is called It's Not Hard to Homeschool High School. I will post a note to that group in my show notes, but seriously, y'all, it's right there in the name. This is a national Facebook group that allows questions and gives encouragement to anyone who is homeschooling in high school. And I am also involved in local groups in Georgia and co-ops around my community and other places that give support when I need it. So look for those who are already doing what you want to do and grab onto their heels. Sometimes all you need is just someone to help you get the ball rolling. Talk to different families who do homeschooling differently. You can take bits of what they do and form your own ways. This is one of the many beauties of homeschooling. Find someone who values academics and ask them how they structure their day. Find someone who is more of a relaxed homeschooler and ask them the same question. And also talk to someone who unschools. And don't be afraid of that word, and certainly do not judge them. Unschooling is not what you may think it is. Unschooling is not no school at all. It's just a word that says a family is learning in a very non-traditional way that may seem unconventional to most. They may not be using textbooks. They may be using real-life examples and scenarios. And our family falls probably more in the very relaxed homeschooling scope of things. So go ahead and make that list of questions that you have. Take someone to coffee. I had someone call me just a couple of weeks ago, and they took me to coffee, and we sat and we were able to catch up because it was an old friend that I haven't seen in quite some time. And we were able to spend the majority of the time catching up. And then she had some questions for me that she wanted me to answer for her because she is about to embark on this journey of homeschooling. And she was actually homeschooled herself, and so was her husband. So they still had questions, and it's okay to ask questions. So she took me to coffee. We had a conversation, and I answered her questions. And then she said, when I have more questions, I will get back with you. But we also kept it simple. She didn't have an overwhelmingly amount of questions, and I didn't try to overwhelm her with the answers that I was giving her. So she was doing the right thing. She has other parents, homeschooling moms and dads, that she's going to be interviewing and talking to them about how they do things. And I think it's going to be great. And she's really excited to start out on this journey. And I'm really excited for her. Her kids are young. And I just remember that time when our kids were young and learning was like exciting and new. And we got to spend time outside every day and just having fun. And that's really what homeschooling is all about. So ask the question about, how do you have fun? What do you do? Like, how do you go places? Where do you go to learn? What field trips do you take? What is great around the community? What are some free things that we can do? There's tons of free things that we can do in the community, no matter what age your child is. So ask them how they do their day, but also ask them how they have fun. Ask them why they homeschool. Ask them if they have a why, if they've stated that why. Their why may have nothing to do with homeschooling or may have nothing to do with academics at all. And you may be surprised at why someone has chosen to homeschool. So ask them all kinds of questions. Go ahead and start your list. And if you have questions for me, feel free to email me at tiffany@toflifepodcast.com. I will be more than happy to answer any of the questions that you have. I will even be happy to answer your question and read it aloud on one of my podcast episodes. You never know. I may give you a shout out. So go ahead and email me, ask me questions, and I will do my best to answer them, or I can maybe point you in the right direction. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, and also go to my website, toflifepodcast.com, and make sure that you subscribe there as well so that you will know immediately whenever I post a new episode or life article on my website. So thanks for listening today. I really appreciate you being here, and I will talk to you next time for our next episode. Thank you for listening to TF Life Podcast. If you have two friends who need to transform every attitude of life, tell them about us. Also, right now, before you forget, go to Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to a podcast and hit that subscribe or follow button. That way you will never miss an episode. Thanks for listening to TF Life Podcast, and we'll see you next time.